The galaxy had known peace for 12,000 years. The Collective, a union of 700 spacefaring species, had brought order to the chaos of the cosmos. Wars were forgotten memories. Conflict was a strange word found only in ancient texts. The great empires rose and fell through trade, through diplomacy, through the slow dance of cultural exchange that spanned centuries. High Arbiter Colvex of the Centauri stood before the Grand Assembly on the station called Nexus Prime. His 4 eyes scanned the vast chamber where representatives from across known space had gathered. The matter before them was simple. A new species had been discovered on the edge of the outer rim. They called themselves humans. They came from a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel only 3 centuries ago. They were young. They were primitive by galactic standards. Their technology was crude. Their ships were slow, and their weapons were laughable compared to the plasma cannons of the Vorthik or the gravity bombs of the Kelmari. Colvex raised his ceremonial staff. The chamber fell silent. "We vote today on a matter of the Terran species," he announced. "The Dominion of Zertek has proposed their integration into the Collective as a labor class. Their physical strength and adaptability make them valuable workers for mining operations in the toxic atmospheres of the Crimson Nebula." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Zartek delegation clicked their mandibles in approval. They had already calculated the profits. Humans could work in conditions that would kill most species. They healed quickly. They bred quickly. They were perfect. But then something unexpected happened. The lights in the chamber flickered. Every holographic display showed the same image, an ancient symbol that no living species recognized. The figure of an old being appeared on every screen. It was not flesh and blood. It was a recording, a message stored in the very foundations of Nexus Prime itself. The being in the recording was tall and thin, with skin like silver water. Its eyes held the weight of billions of years. When it spoke, the translation system struggled to keep up with a language that predated the Collective by eons. "I am Eternal Keeper Theron of the First Council," the figure said. "If you are seeing this message, then you have discovered the species known as Terrans. We left this warning for you. Heed our words." The chamber was completely silent now. "We were the first," the recording continued. "We walked among the stars when your ancestors were single cells floating in warm oceans. We saw the birth and death of 1,000 civilizations. We cataloged every species in this galaxy and the next. And in all our travels and all our observations, we found only one species that frightened us. The Ancient being paused. Its silver face showed something that looked almost like fear. "The Terrans are sleeping," it said. "They have been sleeping for a very long time. They forgot what they are. They forgot what they can become. Do not wake them. Do not threaten them. Do not corner them. Let them dream their peaceful dreams on their small blue world. Because if you wake them, if you force them to remember what lies buried in their bones, you will face something that cannot be stopped." The recording flickered. "We were the first. We are now the last. We chose to leave this universe rather than face what the Terrans would become. This is our final gift to those who come after. Let the Terrans sleep. This is not advice. This is a warning. This is a plea." The image faded. The lights returned to normal. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then High Commander Zithrak of the Zartek Dominion began to laugh. His deep, rumbling laughter echoed through the chamber. "Fairy tales," he said. "Ghost stories told by a dead race. These first ones were cowards who fled the galaxy. Why should we listen to their fears? The humans are weak. Their homeworld has been observed. They fight among themselves over resources. They destroy their own environment. They are barely capable of managing one planet, let alone threatening an empire." Several delegations murmured their agreement. Colvex felt uneasy, but he was a politician, not a prophet. The vote proceeded. The Zertek proposal passed with an overwhelming majority. The Terrans would be integrated as a labor class. Resistance would be managed. Compliance would be ensured. The first Zertek fleet arrived in the Sol system 6 months later. The humans sent diplomatic envoys. They offered trade. They offered friendship. They begged for peaceful relations. High Commander Zethrak ignored their pleas. He had quotas to fill. He had profits to make. The first human colony on Mars was seized. Its population was put in chains and transported to the mining stations of the Crimson Nebula. The humans protested. They filed complaints with the Collective. Their representatives stood before the Grand Assembly and pleaded for justice. They were ignored. They were laughed at. They were told to accept their place in the natural order. Then something changed. It started small. A mining station in the Crimson Nebula went silent. When Zertek inspectors arrived, they found every guard dead and every human worker gone. The escape pods had not been used. The ships were still docked. Yet somehow, thousands of humans had vanished into the toxic atmosphere that should have killed them in minutes. Zethrak sent investigators. They never returned. He sent soldiers. They found the humans waiting for them. But these were not the same humans who had been put in chains. These humans had changed. They had adapted to the toxic air. They had built weapons from mining equipment. They had organized themselves into something that moved and thought and killed with terrifying efficiency. The first battle lasted 4 hours. 3,000 Zertek soldiers died. 0 humans were confirmed killed. Zethrak was confused. His intelligence report said humans were fragile. They needed specific temperatures. They needed clean water. They needed sleep. They could not survive in extreme conditions, but the humans were surviving. They were thriving. They were evolving in real time, changing themselves to meet every challenge. And they were angry. The anger spread. On Earth, the news of what had happened on Mars reached every screen and every mind. Something woke in the collective consciousness of humanity. An old memory stirred. A fire that had been dormant for thousands of years began to burn again. The governments of Earth stopped fighting each other. The corporations stopped competing. The divisions that had separated humanity for centuries melted away like morning frost. In 3 months, Earth went from a divided world to a single united species with one goal: survival. Human scientists unlocked technologies they had barely understood before. It was as if a fog had lifted from their minds. They looked at their old designs and saw 1,000 improvements. They built new ships. They built new weapons. They built things that should have taken decades in mere weeks. The Zertek sent a war fleet of 500 ships to crush the rebellion before it could spread. They expected an easy victory against primitive opponents. They found Earth waiting for them. The battle lasted 12 minutes. Not a single Zertek ship survived. News of the defeat spread across the collective. High Arbiter Kolvex watched the reports with growing horror. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever seen. They did not follow the rules of galactic warfare. They did not respect treaties. They did not take prisoners. They did not stop. They adapted to every weapon used against them. Plasma cannons became useless after the first week because humans had already developed shields that absorbed the energy. Gravity bombs were turned against their creators. Biological weapons that should have wiped out entire populations only made the humans stronger, as if their bodies learned from every attempt to destroy them. And they kept coming. Kolvex called an emergency session of the Grand Assembly. The chamber was only half full. Many delegations had already fled to the outer reaches of the galaxy, hoping distance would save them. "We must negotiate," Kolvex said. "We must apologize. We must offer reparations." Zethrak slammed his clawed fist on the table. "Never. We do not bow to lesser species." "Lesser?" Kolvex replied. "You have lost 40 systems in 2 months. Your homeworld is under siege. Your fleet is gone. Tell me, Zethrak, who is lesser now?" The Zertek commander had no answer. A human delegation arrived at Nexus Prime 1 week later. The representative was a woman named Elena Vance. She was small by galactic standards, barely 2 meters tall. But when she entered the Grand Assembly, every being in the chamber felt something they had never experienced before. Fear. "You were warned," she said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "The ancients told you what we were. They told you what we could become. But you did not listen. You took our people. You put them in chains. You treated them like animals." She walked slowly toward the central platform. No one tried to stop her. "Do you know what humans are?" she asked. "We are survivors. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars and famines. We survived everything our planet threw at us. And we survived because we have one ability that no other species in this galaxy possesses." She turned to face the full assembly. "We never give up. We never stop fighting. We never accept defeat. You can beat us down 1,000 times, and we will rise 1,001. You can kill millions of us, and billions more will take their place. You can destroy our worlds, and we will build new ones from the ashes." Her eyes swept across the terrified faces of the galaxy's leaders. The ancients understood this. They saw what we were becoming. They chose to leave rather than face us. That was wisdom. You chose to enslave us. That was foolishness. She placed a data chip on the central podium. "These are our terms. Every human slave will be freed. Every species that participated in our subjugation will pay reparations. The Zartek Dominion will be dissolved. And the collective will be reformed with human oversight." High Commander Zethrak rose from his seat. "You cannot dictate terms to us. You are one species against 700. Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We're 700, she corrected. 43 species have already accepted our protection. Another 100 are negotiating. And as for the Zertek," she pressed a button on her wrist device. The holographic display showed images of the Zertek homeworld. Human ships filled the sky. Human soldiers walked through the capital city. The Zertek military had been completely dismantled. "You have already fallen," she said. "You just did not know it yet." Zethrak collapsed back into his seat. His mandibles clicked uselessly. He had no words left. Kolvax stepped forward. He bowed his head low, a gesture of complete submission that no High Arbiter had ever made before. "What would you have of us?" he asked. Elena looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had softened slightly. "We do not want to destroy you," she said. "We never wanted war. We only wanted to live in peace. But you forced us to wake up. You forced us to remember what we are. Now you must live with the consequences." She turned and walked toward the exit. At the door, she paused. "The ancients were right," she said. "You should have let us sleep. But perhaps this is better. Perhaps it was time for us to wake up. Perhaps the galaxy needs shepherds instead of masters." She left the chamber. Behind her, the leaders of 700 species sat in stunned silence. The old order had ended. A new age had begun. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, if any of the first ones still existed to watch, they would have nodded their ancient heads. They had seen this coming. They had always known. The Terrans were never meant to sleep forever. They were meant to wake. They were meant to rise. They were meant to take their place among the stars. The only question had ever been when. Now the galaxy had its answer.